If your team can't make a decision without you, you do not have a team. You have a dependency problem. And most leaders don't realize that and don't see it until it starts costing them something they value and they care about. A vacation, a weekend, a family dinner, their sanity. So picture this. It's 7:40, Tuesday night. The dinner's already on the table. You sat down after a long day, and then your phone lights up. Oh, a quick question, right? You already know where this is going. It's not a quick question. It never is. So you pick up the phone, you answer the question, you solve the problem, you make a decision again. And for years, I thought that was leadership. I thought that being available, especially after hours, made me supportive. I thought that having the answer made me valuable. I thought that my team needed me because I was good at my job. And what I didn't realize was that every time I stepped in, I was teaching my team to step back. And believe me, nobody wakes up one day and decides to build a dependent team. It happens in small increments, in those small moments. A team member comes to you with a draft, and instead of you coaching them through it, you rewrite it for them. Or somebody brings a problem, and before they even finish talking about it, you hand them the answer. Or a decision gets made differently than what you would have made, and you go behind the scenes and you fix it. And none of it comes from bad intentions. Most of it comes because you wanted to help. But helping and enabling are often separated by a very thin line. And here's the uncomfortable part. Part of us likes to be the answer, and we don't usually say it out loud. But if we are honest, there's something satisfying about being the person that everybody comes to. Being needed is important. Being needed feels valuable. Being needed feels safe. If everyone depends on you, then you know exactly where you fit. Well, the problem is that what usually feels good to a leader often creates problems and frustrations for the team. Because eventually people will stop thinking for themselves, not because they're incapable, because you've trained them not to. And I see it all the time. A leader tells me they want more accountable team. So then I go and sit in on a meeting. And what I see is that every decision gets routed through them. Every question gets routed through them. Every question gets routed through them. Every disagreement is directed towards them. And the team isn't talking to each other. They're all talking through a leader. And at that point, you're not leading a team anymore. You're operating a switchboard. So everything has to pass through you before work can move forward. And then leaders wonder why they feel exhausted. Well, of course you're exhausted. You've become a decision-making department for the entire organization. And I learned this lesson a long time ago. I remember thinking I had a great team because everyone came to me. People asked for my opinion, people wanted my approval, people wanted me involved. I took that as evidence that I was doing something right. Work wasn't moving because I was leading. Work was moving because I was pushing every piece of it forward myself. One creates scale, the other one creates dependence. And the strongest people on your team are usually the first ones to figure it out. They learn exactly where the authority lives, not what's in their job description and not what the org chart. They learn what actually happens. If they make a decision and it gets second guessed every time, they'll stop making decisions. If they take initiative and get corrected every time, they'll stop making initiative. If waiting for your approval is the safest option, they'll wait. People don't follow your leadership philosophy. they follow your leadership behavior. That's why the ownership can be something that you announce at the all-staff meeting. If you can tell people to take ownership while continuing to make all the decisions yourself. People believe what leadership does, not what leadership says. So the next time someone brings you a decision they should own, resist the urge to answer it. Instead, ask them, what do you think we should do? And wait. And the silence may feel uncomfortable. And most leaders don't realize how quickly they jump in. The second there is silence, they rescue. The second someone struggles, they answer. Someone hesitates, they will take over. Please don't. Let people think. Let people wrestle with the problem. Let them develop judgment. Because judgment doesn't come from being told the answer. Judgment comes from making decisions. Will they make the exact decision you would make? No. And that's where a lot of leaders get stuck, because they're not looking for good decisions. They're really looking for the decisions they would make. And those are two different things. A self-led team isn't built because everybody thinks like a leader. A self-led team is built because people know how to think for themselves. And that requires room to practice. It requires room to learn. It requires room to make occasional mistakes. And to be honest, some of the best decisions that my team made over the years are decisions I wouldn't make myself. If I had stepped in every time I saw a different path, they never would have developed the confidence to lead. Today, I can disappear for a month, not because I have superhuman employees, and not because I have unicorns, and definitely not because nobody makes mistakes. I can step away because we've spent years building decision-making capability throughout the entire team. People know what they're responsible for, they know what outcomes they own, and most importantly, they know they don't need my permission to do their jobs. And that's the goal. It's not control and it's not dependence. It's capability. So please, this week, pick one decision, just one. Look for something that often lands on your desk that shouldn't require your involvement anymore. And the next time it shows up, hand it back with a question instead of an answer. And then do it again, and then again, and again. Because self-led teams aren't built in a weekend. They build one decision at a time, one conversation at a time, one moment of restraint at a time. And when the day comes that your phone doesn't light up at the dinner table, pay attention to your reaction, because most leaders expect a relief. And what often shows up is something else. It's a little discomfort, it's a little uncertainty. And maybe even the realization that you've spent years measuring your value by how needed you were. Believe me, I know the feeling. I felt it myself. But that's the moment when the real shift happens. Because leadership isn't about being needed. Leadership is about building people who don't need you for every decision. The goal was never to be indispensable. The goal was to become unnecessary in the day-to-day operations so you can finally focus on things that only you can do. That's when you stop managing every move, and that's when your team starts leading. And that's when you finally get your life back. Thank you for watching, and I see you in the next video.